One of the biggest superstars in the world, Janet Jackson, once said, "There's nothing more depressing than having everything and still feeling sad. You must learn to water your spiritual garden." And in Chapter 2 of the Fatal Leap series, we will explore the life and death of Cheslie Kryst, a star who seemingly had everything, the glitz, the glam, and the accolades she worked so hard for, but without peace of mind. And underneath it all was an empty void marked by feelings of hopelessness and despair that became all too much for her to bear. If there are any other public figures you'd like to see covered in the Fatal Leap series, please leave your suggestions in the comments below. Let's get started. Cheslie Corinne Kryst was born on April 28, 1991 in Jackson, Michigan as the second of 4 children. Her mother, April, was of African American descent and was musically inclined, and her father, Rodney, was of Polish descent and was an athlete and bodybuilder. As a child, Cheslie was super close with her siblings and even closer with her mother. She was a fireball of energy and loved performing songs from the movie West Side Story with her family. She was also affectionate and very smart, but very reserved when it came to other kids outside of her family. She stated she nearly failed kindergarten, not for her lack of intelligence, which exceeded that of her classmates, but for not engaging in class. Her being quiet and to herself provided a layer of protection that she had to learn how to manage. The family would relocate to Charlotte, North Carolina, the Queen City, and it was here that the tone would be set for young Cheslie to become an overachiever and eventually the woman who has it all and can do it all. It all started when her mother heard about a beauty pageant on the radio where the winner would get 10 grand and a car. Her mom thought, you know what, I'm gonna go for it. And after competing, she won Miss Petite America and then won Mrs. North Carolina, which was a huge win, one that Cheslie witnessed in the audience. And as Mrs. North Carolina, her mother would bring the kids to her speaking engagements, and Cheslie was enamored by the attention, adoration, and reverence her mother garnered, saying, "It was like my mom is a spokesperson, but she also gets to dress up in glamorous clothes." She idolized her mom not just for her accomplishments, but for also being there whenever she needed her. In a YouTube video, she gushed over pics from her childhood, including one with her mother who acted as her chaperone when she and her class went to the governor's mansion and explored downtown Raleigh, which, if you grew up in North Carolina public school systems like I did, you knew that just about every kid in the 4th or 5th grade went on that magnificent field trip. But her mother essentially became her best friend, as she was now entering middle school and didn't have many friends her age. Instead, she dealt with bullies, as there was a bit of a disconnect between her and the young, simple minds of her peers. Even though she excelled in academics and won over the hearts of her many teachers, to the point where even her guidance counselor suggested that she attend a special school for exceptionally gifted students, her peers would pick on her and tease her for being nerdy, being the teacher's pet, and having a unibrow at one point. But she decided that she was going to turn it all around by tapping into the world of beauty, the way her mother did. And even though that same guidance counselor warned that children with Cheslie's drive tend to burn themselves out without realizing it, she was determined to not be the nerdy kid any longer. Her parents would divorce and the family would hop the Carolina border to Rock Hill, South Carolina. For her 8th grade year, she had grown enough to fit some of her mom's fresh new single outfits and had her older sister styling her hair, and even joined the cheerleading team. The bullying eased up and she had a little boyfriend, and she took the SATs without studying, yet her scores were so high that she qualified for college already. But like many young teens, Cheslie didn't want to forego the high school experience. She figured that this was where she was going to really shine. And once there, she did the same things. Designed some cute fits, joined the cheerleading team, and got a few invites to some parties. But overall, she was dissatisfied because deep inside, she still felt inadequate. It wasn't enough to be a part of the in crowd. She wanted to be the standard, with all eyes on her. She remembered the recognition that her mother had received years earlier, and how with her mother there wasn't a shred of insecurity or doubt as to just who Mrs. North Carolina was. So Cheslie thought, if I could just get like that, if I could just win a pageant, then I could be heard. Then ain't no room for no, oh you ain't good enough, or you still nerdy. Nah, I'll be that chick because they said so. And just like that, she began competing. And right off the bat, she won Miss Freshman at Northwestern High School, and from there it was on. Cheslie not only competed in pageants, but also became captain of the cheer squad, co-president of the Beta Club, and even joined the track team. She not only followed in her mother's footsteps, but also in the steps of her father, who had taken his kids to the track often when they were coming up. and often spoke of his glory days as an athlete. So Cheslie would use her athletic abilities to her advantage and eventually became team captain. In the midst of all of this, her mother had remarried in 2005, this time to David Simpkins, and they had 2 boys, bringing the total to 6 children. And when the family moved to the neighboring city of Fort Mill, South Carolina, she competed in another pageant and was crowned Miss Fort Mill High during her senior year, graduating in 2009. And after high school, she moved to Columbia, South Carolina, and attended the Honors College at USC, which at the time was the #1 honors college in America. She also graduated cum laude from the Darla Moore School of Business with a degree in marketing and human resource management, which was one of the top international business schools in 2013, and she wasn't done showing out yet. During her 4 years at USC, she was also a member of the Alpha Lambda Delta Honor Society and continued with track, joining the Gamecocks women's track and field team. She was also part of USC's mock trial program, as she was good at negotiating and had drawn inspirations from her stepfather, who was a lawyer and fellow USC alumni himself. He helped her find a local law firm she could work for while in undergrad. Afterwards, she'd officially moved to Winston-Salem, North Carolina to attend law school at Wake Forest University to obtain her MBA and Juris Doctor at the same time. Because why the hell not? She never slowed down. And according to her mother, if you tried to talk to her, she'd say, "Don't you think I can handle it?" Meanwhile, she was competing for Miss America also at the same time, trying to win the Miss North Carolina crown. She placed top 10 on her first attempt in 2014 and won a swimsuit award. In the following year, she worked relentlessly with thousands of ab reps, countless hours at the piano playing Stevie Wonder, and endless hours watching and reading the news to be ready for the interview, only to place runner-up. And that was her last chance for the Miss America organization, as she had officially aged out, which was very devastating to her. Unfortunately, all of the overachieving and living up to a standard of perfection, which she thought would bring her joy, proved to be quite empty ultimately. The losses affected her greatly. Maybe she wasn't the it girl she thought she was. And even when she did win the race, time and time again, she wasn't feeling the victory within. Instead, when she got behind closed doors, what she saw was the nerdy, unworthy kid who was putting on a nice front with all of the accomplishments. But at the end of the day, you will always be you. And is you good enough? Though no one could detract from her hard work and dedication, at this point she was trying to convince herself that she was worthy. But with the standards she placed on herself being so high, she most likely felt guilty for having even these thoughts. And much like the counselor predicted, she ended up burning out. And at this point, which was around 2015 time frame, would be her first known attempt to end her life. And when her mother, who was super close to her, found out, she was completely caught off guard, saying, "I was blindsided. I thought we could talk about anything. So when I got that phone call, I'm playing through conversations in my head thinking, why didn't she feel comfortable enough to talk to me?" From that day forward, her mother dedicated herself to supporting Cheslie. She said that they talked 5 or 6 times a day, and that she learned not to talk at her, but to listen to her. Cheslie's mom pleaded with God for another chance, for more time with her, and she made the most of it, with the two becoming closer than ever before. Now wanting to be strong not just for herself, but more so for her family and for her mother, Cheslie would pick up the pieces and continue on with the fight. In 2017, she graduated Wake Forest with both her Juris Doctor and Master of Business Administration, making her the only member of her class to do so. This was after she and her teammates won the AAJ Student Trial Advocacy Competition's National Championship. But after the face-off, one of the judges, which was another black woman, had only one piece of advice for Cheslie, and that was to simply wear a skirt next time, as she had worn a pantsuit. Cheslie had posted about the experience on a Facebook page called Pantsuit Nation, and her post went viral, and it fueled her desire to launch a fashion blog called White Collar Glam, dedicated to helping career women dress professionally. The site had clocked several thousands of visitors per month. She then became licensed to practice law in both North Carolina and South Carolina, just like her stepdad, who held the Bible as she was sworn in. And she began working as an attorney in civil litigation at Poynter Spruill LLP, representing clients in land use and property-related cases, construction disputes, and business litigation. She also worked pro bono for many clients, as well as working alongside Brittany K. Barnett of the Buried Alive Project, which seeks relief for the unjustly sentenced. She assisted one of their clients, who had spent more than 18 years in prison, in securing a sentence reduction through the courts.
And Kim Kardashian is incredibly visible. We know everything about her life.
Yeah.
But if you think about Beyonce and Jay, they are very private with their lives, and it's not surprising that you don't know about what they're doing behind the scenes. And I think that's okay. Like, I'm okay, and I'm sure my stepdad is okay if nobody ever knows that we do this work. What is most important is that we work for our clients and that change is made. So I don't care if nobody ever knows the name of my client as long as he gets out and he gets justice.
Cheslie also saw the importance of embracing her natural hair in the workforce. However, unlike her stepdad's experience as a lawyer, Cheslie's experience being a woman of color was much different, and she was subject to both sexism and racism in the workforce, which she detailed years later in a few TikToks.
I've had random people I do not know just walk up to me and touch my hair. It makes me feel like I'm a pet, or that the hair growing out of my head is so out of the ordinary that you just absolutely had to touch it. Many courthouses in North Carolina, you cannot bring your laptop or cell phone into the courthouse unless you're an attorney. And there were many times that I would be stopped at security and I would tell security, like, look, I have my laptop and cell phone, I'm an attorney. And they would ask to see my bar card, which looks like this. But if I was accompanied by a white attorney from my law firm, we would just have to tell security that we were attorneys and they would let us in. Well, I remember once walking into a deposition, which is basically just like a formal interview of a person. So I'm a lawyer interviewing somebody on the record. And the court reporter was sitting in the room when I walked in. I think she was the only one there. And I walk in and sit down. She's like, do you know when the lawyers are getting here? Well, I'm here, so the lawyers are here.
Now, these clips spoke to so many lawyers who were women of color who had endured many of the same hardships. But even throughout her time as a lawyer, she stayed actively competing in the pageants. For her, pageantry started out as just a means of validation, but over time she began to enjoy the sisterhood, the building of community, building interview skills, and highlighting great causes that she and the other women were passionate about. Though she had aged out of Miss America, there was still Miss USA, and from 2016 through 2018, she competed for Miss North Carolina 3 times, but the last year was her final chance as she was 27 going on 28, which was the age limit, so it was now or never. And lo and behold, she won the title of Miss North Carolina, much to her surprise as she didn't think she'd win. So much so that she told her friends and family not to attend so that they wouldn't get their hopes up. Only her mother was there, as she attended every single pageant that Cheslie had competed in. But winning this title would only propel her for greater victories ahead. Over the next 6 months as Miss North Carolina, she had nearly 50 appearances and events, photo shoots, visiting sponsors, all while still working full-time as an attorney. She was a top-level achiever for sure, but what she didn't anticipate was the amount of online hate that she had faced from haters in her state who felt that her toned body, shaped from years as an athlete, was too masculine to represent the North Carolina standard of beauty. This of course sent Cheslie, who was already self-conscious, into a whirlwind of anxiety, inadequacy, and stress so overwhelming that she said she could barely eat some days, and that she had to stop going on the pageant blogs and message boards because even though she received positive comments, it was the negative ones that stuck with her, as if they could see what others couldn't. She would keep at her craft, and on April 28th, she turned 28, and just 4 days later, she would go on to win the title of Miss USA 2019, making her the oldest woman to ever win the title. In fact, that year was so epic because all 5 major pageants, Miss America, Miss USA, Miss Teen USA, Miss World, and Miss Universe were all black women, which will forever be a historic moment. And due to the delays surrounding the Rona the following year, Cheslie would hold on to the title of Miss USA for over 18 months, making her the longest title holder in the history of the pageant. Though this wasn't without vitriol, as the nationwide backlash that she had received in the pageant world for her win was on a different level. You know, these pageants are like sports for some people, and when their state doesn't win, they talk a lot of shit. And immediately after Cheslie had won, there were petitions to lower the age limit because some people felt that she was too old to have won. Others would leave nasty messages and emojis all over her social media accounts, and some would stop her in the street. Essentially, she was now being thrust into the mainstream, and so she had to deal with celebrity life, which was a different ballgame completely.
When I was Miss USA, I received hateful comments, people putting throw-up faces in my comments. People even messaged me telling me to kill myself. So sadly, this is nothing new. It happens to like every single title holder. It's not just pageants. We've all been victims of online bullying, and this is how I deal with it. I delete the comments and I block the people who left them. I used to try to respond, but some people don't want to be reasoned with. They're just hateful people. So you'll notice that comment is gone because I deleted it and I blocked that person. And if you're receiving hate, block and delete.
She'd pack up and leave her civil litigation job in Charlotte to move to Midtown and live in the Manhattan high-rise that all of the Miss USA title holders live in. What most people don't know or realize is that Miss USA is an actual job with a salary, demands, and duties, including appearances, endless traveling, engagements, and hours of charity work beyond what most are used to. But Cheslie wasn't your average, and was used to the high-paced, cram everything all in one day kind of lifestyle. And she would be everywhere, with obligations far too numerous to name. But amidst the glam and glitz, she kept true to her causes. The charity that she supported going into the competition was the nonprofit Dress for Success, which she would promote and become the global ambassador for upon her win. She also served on the board of directors for Big Brothers Big Sisters of America. She was also big on her social media accounts, where she gave advice on life, did live videos with other pageant winners, and even discussed the importance of taking care of your mental health in these trying times. She then returned to USC to be the celebrity starter at the homecoming football game.
Our Gamecock track and field student athlete, South Carolina graduate, and reigning Miss USA, Cheslie Kryst.
Thank you. I want you all to know, even though I travel all across the USA, I will always bleed garnet and black. Are y'all ready for this? All right, this side game, this side talk. In 3, 2, 1,
Under the Carolina sky, I stand. Under the palm beneath.
Around this time, she had been tapped to become a guest correspondent for Extra TV, where she would interview a few celebrities like Lizzo and Zendaya. But once her time with being Miss USA was complete, Cheslie was brought on full-time with Extra as an entertainment news correspondent. She traveled the globe, getting a chance to interview all the big-name celebrity stars, and very quickly she was loved for her impressive interviewing skills and bubbly, fun-loving personality. She fit right in, and would be nominated for the Daytime Emmy Award for Outstanding Entertainment News Program as correspondent on Extra, both in 2020 and in 2021. But with the highs also came the lows, one of which was stalkers and people spewing off hateful rhetoric while she was trying to film. And in one clip, Cheslie had about enough of it.
Oh my god, this creep is following us. Is he still following us? I don't want to shoot with him. It is so creepy and weird. We can just wait until he leaves.
Let's just start walking.
He's gonna keep following us.
Sir, we're just trying to work.
Please don't follow us. Please don't. You are following us, and it's so rude and creepy. Just keep going with your dog. We don't need you to follow us. Because you're following us. What do you mean, why do I feel uncomfortable? Because you're following us. Keep walking then. Then why are you stopped when we're stopped? Your dog wants to go over there. Go. Leave. Please leave. Do whatever. Just leave. Because it's creepy. Thank you. Thank you. That's fine. Thank you. Well, it's terrible to see creep. Stop following us.
I'm not following you, sister.
Okay, then stay here while we go a different way, or walk away. What a creep. Let's just go this way.
All right.
As for her lawyer's hat, she initially had become her firm's diversity advisor when she started working with Extra, but would end up stepping away from practicing law completely, as she was over it. Going into the spring of 2021, she had penned an article for Allure called A Pageant Queen Reflects on Turning 30, where she discussed how turning 30 feels like a cold reminder that she was running out of time to matter in society's eyes. In the article, she reflected on her many accomplishments and how in vain some of them felt, writing, "When I graduated from college and opted to continue my studies at Wake Forest University, I decided I'd earn a law degree and an MBA at the same time. Why stop at 2 degrees when you can have 3? I joined a trial team at school and won a national championship. I competed in moot court, won essay competitions, and earned local, regional, and national executive board positions. I nearly worked myself to death, literally, until an 8-day stint in a local hospital sparked the development of a new perspective." Apparently, she had worked herself into exhaustion and had to be hospitalized. "I discovered that the world's most important question, especially when asked repeatedly and answered frankly, is why? Why earn more achievements just to collect another win? Why pursue another plaque or medal or line item on my resume if it's for vanity's sake, rather than out of passion? Why work so hard to capture the dreams I've been taught by society to want when I continue to only find emptiness? Too often, I noticed that the only people impressed by an accomplishment were those who wanted it for themselves. Meanwhile, I was rewarded with a lonely craving for the next award. Some would see this hunger and label it competitiveness. Others might call it the unquenchable thirst of insecurity. I was further along in the journey of learning this lesson when I won Miss USA. My term was not an exercise in the expected. Instead, it felt filled with purpose. In fact, from the moment I won, my reign ignited a heightened desire to commit myself to passion, intent, and authenticity." The article ended with, "Now I enter year 30, searching for joy and purpose on my own terms, and that feels like my own sweet victory." And after that brief recollection, Cheslie returned to the busy schedule that kept her preoccupied. She turned her white-collar glam blog into a fashion line and launched a jewelry store by the same name. She would travel to Israel for the 70th anniversary Miss Universe, this time serving on the selection committee for the preliminary competition. And she would go on to be featured in Colin Kaepernick's Netflix series Colin in Black and White, where they dwelled on her historic win in 2019. She would go toe-to-toe with Kenya Moore, who was also Miss USA 1993 on a competition show called Nashville Squares, a reboot of the classic game show Hollywood Squares, but with a country twist. They appeared on episode 8 out of only 10 episodes that would air, as the show would go on hiatus before Bob Saget's unfortunate death, which took place in January 2022, exactly 3 weeks before Cheslie's. Around this time, she was launching her brand new YouTube channel, where she discussed her hair tutorials and tips. She was now going by Red. Also, she would go on her last family trip to Universal Studios, as all 6 siblings were close, and the first 4 wore matching gold bracelets to symbolize their bond with one another. Cheslie loved her family dearly, but the war with mental health had been raging on in her mind, and it was getting harder and harder for her to fight it with every passing day. Over the previous year, she had done several interviews regarding mental health over Zoom with celebrities like Gabrielle Union, Taraji P. Henson, and Mary J. Blige, asking all of them just what steps they took to combat their depression. But it came across as simply spreading awareness for interviewers' sake, and no one picked up on the possibility that she was asking these questions for herself. Unfortunately, all of the achievements, winning numerous awards, accolades, interviewing A-list celebrities, the crown she wore, the titles she held, all the likes, follows, and heartwarming messages from fans whose lives she changed, was still not enough to suppress the thoughts in her mind. She had high-functioning depression and likely suffered from imposter syndrome, feeling completely empty throughout what was supposed to be her life's most glorious moments. The mental illness that is depression convinced Cheslie that no matter what was going on, that she was unworthy, alone, and that this suffering will never truly end. And I'm certain that the isolation that came with the pandemic hadn't helped, nor did the winter season, where depression tends to spike the most in adults. And in the early morning hours of January 30th, 2022, Cheslie had left a note on her computer, leaving everything to her mother, and had sent her mother a lengthy text message, which was a last will and testament, saying her official goodbyes and instructions on how she wanted her legacy to be handled. She also posted to Instagram with the caption, "May today bring you rest and peace." She then went from her apartment on the 9th floor of the Orion condominium, where she lived in the Hell's Kitchen neighborhood of Manhattan, and traveled to the 29th floor, which had an open terrace that was accessible to all tenants in the 60-story building. And it was reported that just after 7 a.m. that morning, that Cheslie would leap off the balcony, falling 29 stories to her demise on the snowy pavement down below. A customer ran inside a nearby storefront to announce that a woman had just fallen from the building, and the cops were on the scene quickly. Witnesses said that it was surreal seeing this happen on 42nd Street when a man on 43rd Street had just jumped to his demise just 2 weeks prior. Her mother, who had lived out of state, said that the lengthy goodbye text that Cheslie had sent her was delivered while she was at her early morning exercise class, and that after class was over and she checked her phone, an hour had already passed. Devastated at what she was reading, she and her husband would contact NYPD to do a wellness check on their daughter while they attempted to hop on the soonest flight to New York, and that after boarding the plane, that while it was taxiing down the runway to take off was when the police had called confirming that she was gone. Once news of her death broke out, hundreds of thousands of tributes poured in online by fans, family, and industry peers who were utterly shocked that such a beaming light who seemingly had everything would take herself out so suddenly, as she hid her depression so well from the public. Her grandfather was quoted as saying in a statement, "To be extinguished so fast is just devastating, and it's so hard to imagine that one moment they're here and then the next minute they're not, and you know that the only way you'll ever see them again is when you yourself pass away." Her celebration of life memorial service was held on February 18th at Elevation Church in Charlotte and was live streamed on the brand new YouTube channel that she had just started.
I made sacrifices for this video.
Sacrifices.
Now, it is well known that whatever Cheslie put her mind to, she was going to commit to, even to the bitter end. But in an act so tragic, many online spectators couldn't wrap their heads around this superwoman, leaving everything behind so seemingly on a whim, which fueled rumors of a cover-up, with some people pointing to the stalkers that she had in her life, while others pointed to the fact that her last post on Instagram was taken from a pic that she originally posted 2 years prior, where she wrote, "That highlight though, trying to show Bae I really do light up his life." This led to speculation over a possible love interest being involved in her death, and several people online demanded a full police report be made public, along with the surveillance footage from the building, which greatly upset her family, who was already grieving.
Would like to see laid to rest is this theory that Cheslie was murdered, and this call for people to get the police involved. I know that my daughter died by suicide. Painful to hear people constantly contradicting what we absolutely know. Here that I had an opportunity to share the message where she explained in detail what was going on.
Right.
And I hope that those who want to continue to muddy her passing with something that just is false will stop and let our family heal.
Her mother, April, found herself at the forefront of most of the speculation, since everything in the will was left to her. And it hadn't helped that when her father said in a distraught phone call to the New York Post that Cheslie was as pure as can be and didn't take any kind of substances or prescription meds, that he also followed up with, "I think it had a lot to do with family dysfunction, but it will be a while before we can talk more. She was sad," without any further elaboration. And to date, he has never elaborated beyond this, which left the door open for many more theories to flood the message boards in the meantime. Though the police did state that Cheslie was by herself up on that terrace, and they ruled the manner of death as self-inflicted. Any surveillance footage that they have, they kept from the public out of respect for her family. And in May of 2022, her mother and stepfather visited the Red Table Talk to tell about Cheslie's life and tragic death. There, her mother read aloud parts of the last text message that Cheslie had sent her, and it was extremely heartbreaking.
I love you, Mom, and you are my best friend and the person I've lived for years. I wish I could stay with you, but I cannot bear the crushing weight of persistent sadness, hopelessness, and loneliness any longer. I've never told you these feelings because I've never wanted you to worry and because I hoped they would eventually change, but I know they never will. They follow me through every accomplishment, success, family gathering, friendly dinner. I cry almost every day now, like I'm in mourning. I've wished for death for years, and I know you would want to know and want to help, but I haven't wanted to share this weight with anyone. Regardless of that, thank you sincerely for being there for me in some of my loneliest moments without me even telling you I needed you. You have kept me alive and ready to face another day because you answer every phone call and you are there for me at the drop of a hat. You listen to me and care when I tell you what goes on in my life, and you've always made me feel like you love me. I love you more than any person I've ever known. You've done nothing wrong. You've done everything right. I no longer feel like I have any purpose in life. I don't know if I ever really did.
Also in the text, she revealed that she wanted her mother to publish the memoir that she had just finished writing, entitled, By the Time You Read This, The Space Between Cheslie's Smile and Mental Illness. And April would honor her daughter's wishes, publishing the book 2 years later, on the week of what would have been Cheslie's 33rd birthday, and it became a New York Times bestseller. April would turn her pain into purpose, becoming a national ambassador for NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Health, and travels the globe, spreading awareness about her daughter's story and the importance of mental health, as well as disputing many of the stigmas of what people think depression looks like, as it could be any one of us. April revealed that she cries at least once a day, and that the magnitude of her grief has been so debilitating at times that she often went back and forth over her own mortality, but that each day she fights a little harder to be here for her family, for her daughter's legacy, and for those battling mental health issues. Cheslie's legacy and impact still lives on. Her Dress for Success charity created the Cheslie Kryst Women's Advancement Fund to support more ladies in their employment journey. And USC established the Cheslie C. Kryst Scholarship, which provides support for future Darla Moore School of Business students, while memorializing Cheslie's life and legacy, while Wake Forest University School of Law established the Cheslie Kryst Diversity and Social Justice Law Scholarship, which would be awarded annually to a law student of color from the Carolinas. Also, beginning with Miss USA 2024, the age limits for the pageant have been officially lifted, allowing women 29 years and above to be eligible to participate.
If you had a superhero power in real life, what would it be? What would you want?
A superhero power. The power to heal.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Is that a superhero power? Is there a character that has the power to heal? Does it? Heal man.
Would that be your superhero name?
That's her. Don't you start. That's gonna get out now, right? And Denzel Washington as Heal Man.
Yeah, that is gonna get out.
You know that's gonna get out, and I'll be blaming you too.
Rest in peace to the brilliant, talented, accomplished superwoman that is Cheslie Kryst. You came, you fought, and you conquered everything you set out for, and I know you'd be an even bigger mogul had you stayed. But beyond everything you achieved, I wish more than anything that you were able to receive the help that you needed and the peace of mind that you so desperately deserved. To know that you're not alone and that there were resources to help you take a break from this fast-paced life and focus on the much-needed internal healing. You fought for as long as you could by yourself, and you fought to be here for everyone else. And now, you're at rest until we see you again. This is Justified by Jury. Y'all know how to hit that like, and y'all know how to hit that subscribe. And if you want to, do so. And I'll catch y'all on the next video.